Alrighty, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Subscribing to My Podcast. Because I have a new guest on the show every week, it's very difficult to get consistent viewership. So if there's one thing that you can do to support me and the guest featured on my show is by interacting with the video. You can always unsubscribe later if you hate me or the content. Without further ado, here's your episode with Will. Cornell is an RA in Lyon Hall. He's a famous nerd and space nerd specifically, and he also hates root beer floats. Will, you and me have been hanging out in the RA sphere for at least a couple semesters, but why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell some of the viewers some important things about you?
Yeah, so as Elijah said, my name is Will. I'm a double major in materials and aerospace engineering. I don't know why I'm doing that to myself, but sometimes you just got to say, screw it, let's go for it. But I'm also an RA of Harwood House, which is an honors house. So they're all a lot of fun guys and girls there. So it's been a fun experience RAing. And yeah, I'm definitely like deep like science believer. Like I was raised by I had these long conversations with my grandpa, who's super into science and black holes and quantum, crazy stuff like that. So he had this huge influence on me. And so now I have this, science upbringing. And I feel like he's the reason I kind of went into sort of what I did. But yeah, so just, lifelong learning and enjoying life. Yeah.
Science, getting brought up in science is a very bizarre term. I feel like you only hear that in Big Bang Theory. Like very rarely am I like someone who's brought up in science. I only see that in the shows. What do you mean by that? Like what kind of values are bestowed in a science family?
I wouldn't even say so much as like within my like nuclear family, but like I was such a curious kid growing up, right? And so I ended up asking these questions to my grandpa that, he seemed to know the answers to all of them when I asked them. And now I probably know more than he does. But
dang,
I know.
Flex.
Right, exactly. Yeah. He'll watch this and be like, but no. And so he was just sort of interested in the same things as me. And so like when I'm asking him this crazy stuff, I swear I was having conversations about black holes and like middle school. I didn't know what I was talking about, but I was like, those are cool.
Yeah. Where do you think this comes from? Like an interest in space. It's so abstract to, I feel like most people, but the people who are into it are like into it. And I just wonder where this comes from.
I mean, there are a few things. When I was young, it was because it's so mysterious, right? It's like you're telling me that, I mean, it's literally like the peak of mystery. Like it's a black space, right? And there's like that's like if you're setting up a mystery thriller or something, right? You got like the dark scenes.
Yeah.
It's black, it's dark, it's mysterious. You got like black holes, right? Stuff gets sucked in, right? And you never see it again. As a kid, that's like, you mean if I throw my pillow, I'll never see it again? Mm-hmm. Like it's crazy. So it's super mysterious, and naturally that was like, I want to learn more about it, right? So naturally, as a young, curious kid, I was drawn towards that, and my grandpa was kind of able to, like, actually feed that interest a little bit.
I wonder where this comes from and what this identifies as a person. So as, like, you're studying, I feel like people have these interests, and sometimes they're more applicable than others. So, like, these people who are really interested in biology are, like, really interested in animals, or they're really interested in people and they want to become nurses or something. And then you have people who are interested, like me, in psychology. They want to know how people work. People who are interested in engineering, they want to build things. They want to do these things. But then this interest in space just, like, leaves me just, like, you know what I mean? I just wonder. And I listen to these people talk about space, and I listen to these people, like, and it sounds so interesting, but it seems so out of reach. Abstract that it's
exactly. And I think, I feel like the second reason sort of tying into this that people are so interested in space is that it's, most of everything, right? It's like there's the world is space, and then there just happens to be this tiny place that's Earth, where 90% of the universe is space, 10% is Earth, and then importance-wise, Earth is, 90% for us, and right? So it's like Earth has this huge importance, but if you actually look at what's out there, it's like there's a lot. Like there's a lot going on out there, and just a lot of interesting potential and stuff like that. I specifically went into aerospace engineering because I when I was young, I was interested in the black holes, the far distant, interesting, crazy stuff. And then I started to, develop my interests a bit. And then it started to become more like, all right, what are these places where we could go? Like, where could we land, people? Like, where could we practically sort of evolve our science and actually, like, take spacecraft? And so that's why I kind of went towards aerospace, where it's like, we could actually make something to go to Mars. We can't make something to go to a black hole. Right. So
right now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right. Exactly. Until wormholes, until we figure all that out, whatever. But, yeah,
to figure that whole thing out. Did you watch a lot of space stuff as a kid? And do you think this kind of influenced that? Or is this straight up just opening up a book like the nerd you are and like seeing the
interesting thing is like, I'm a nerd in the sense of like, how the world works and stuff like that. Like, I could care less for Star Wars.
So based.
I'll say it, but no, I've never really been a huge nerd in the sense of like content and entertainment, stuff like that. I can't really think of anything that I'm like a devoted fan to.
Okay.
Right? I mean, there's maybe things here and there, but not too.
So it truly was just like schooling in your family that kind of introduced you to this idea and like kept you going in enjoying space. Is that where this comes from then?
Yeah. I mean, like, I had great teachers throughout like high school or whatever too. And then I had an engineering class, that I was able to take in high school. And so I was able to evolve that a little bit. I made the mistake of taking a civil engineering class for some reason at one point. I got like a D in that because it was during COVID.
Well, having space be the motivator to allow you to double major in 2 engineering courses just sounds like suicide. I could not handle.
I mean, well, okay, that's just it too, because it's like I started with aerospace. Like that was the major I came here for, and then I started thinking about adding this materials major because I was also interested in chemistry in high school. And so aerospace doesn't get you that at all. There's not much of a chemistry aspect, whereas materials does. And so, and they work well together, right? So I was like, all right, we're just going to go for it. One of those like, screw it moments.
That's just unbelievable. What does the future look like for you?
Yeah. So more and more, I'm starting to kind of align more with the materials aspect, I feel like. Aerospace is still a huge thing for me. I'm like, I follow the industry pretty closely, like SpaceX and Rocket, all these huge companies. But in terms of careers, I'm going to be here for 5 years, first of all. That's what my future looks like.
5 more years starting now?
No. 5 total.
Okay.
Total. Hopefully. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I would say the double engineering major is 5 long years.
You're doing a double major as well, right?
Yeah, but I could do that in 3, because it's super easy. But
yeah. But so 5 years here, right? And then hopefully an internship or, a co-op somewhere in there. But then sort of going into materials a little bit, right? So having that as my actual career starting point. Because this type of thing, materials, you can go anywhere with it, right? So it's like...
Are you wanting to work for any of these companies like SpaceX or NASA or...
I mean, I'm not sure at this point.
Okay.
Like, it seems like it would be the dream, but then it's like, how well would I fit into that environment? Because I've heard SpaceX treats their employees like rocket fuel for their company. Like they just burn through them. It's like a year and they're done. Like,
wow. Okay.
But if somebody's been at SpaceX for 7 years, they're like,
yeah,
something else. So in terms of like a long-term career, no, I don't. But I kind of just believe in flying by the seat of your pants, like see where you end up. So
is there any chance you become an astronaut and like actually go out into space, or is that like just...
I mean, I feel like eventually in my lifetime, we'll see pretty easy access to space for anybody, right?
Okay.
So like if you want to go on a vacation to space, you could pay the price of a vacation and like go to orbit or something. So it's like in that sense, but I wouldn't consider that an astronaut necessarily.
Yeah, they're not cool enough to to pioneer these things.
Exactly. Like the people like on Jeff Bezos' rocket or whatever getting, I don't know. I don't know
Well,
about that one.
in regards to like space pop culture, I was thinking more like Star Trek because that's just like adventure in space,
more ingrained. Yeah,
Yeah, like
maybe I would like Star Trek. I feel like I haven't even given it a shot. Like I don't know.
pretty dang good.
I know. Yeah, I don't think I've watched it. Like
It's literally like every episode is a different space adventure revolving around some idea of what could be happening in space.
yeah, see,
like,
I'd probably like that.
Yeah, like you know what I mean. It's like all mystery. Like the entire show is just like this mysterious entity does this thing. Well, it's actually like a carbonate creature. It's not a planet or whatever. It's like just a really cool like just mystery after mystery. It's a pretty cool show.
Exactly.
It's
pretty cool. Just like, the basis of modern, sci-fi in a sense.
I'd hope, I guess, but they are old too, so they did it before we even like.
Yeah.
They'd be looking into the future and it'd be so funny. It'd be like in the year 2030 and like their TV screens are like tiny and they're like little pixelated images. And I'm like,
but hey, sometimes those like looking into the future stuff are like surprisingly accurate. It's like in the year 2020, people will be learning school from home. And it's like,
it's like they knew it was coming. They knew it was coming.
And then you got like The Simpsons, which is predicted like every major historical event. I don't know. Do you ever see those?
I've seen those. I do think they're kind of cheating though, because once you've cataloged as like the longest running TV show, like you're probably gonna accidentally hit some nails there.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
What are you predicting for you said that like orbiting space is going to be something that you foresee that people could just do. Do you have other predictions, or do you have anything that you're going to be working towards?
I mean, one of the other interesting predictions, or not even predictions, just kind of the direction that we're going is like more and more advanced AI, which it kind of seems cool at first glance, and then you kind of start to like look into and think about what this could mean, and it's kind of scary.
Really?
Like, if you, I mean, imagine you have a robot that's smarter than we are. Like, do we really want that?
I feel like we had robots that were smarter than us a long time ago.
It depends how you define it, though. Like,
I feel like there are Roombas that are smarter than some of the people that
the Roombas at like the 10th percentile.
Yeah. Nah, I'm kidding. I've understood the fears of AI, but I also I feel like such a boomer every time I talk to people about AI. Like they always talk about some like scary like AI situation, and then I see the state of what AI is at, and I'm like, it's not even close yet. You know what I mean? But it is cool. But like we're getting, I just wonder. These people are talking about AI taking over the world. It seems so unlikely right now with the way that it's at. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And I just don't know. I mean, I'm not an expert on this stuff. I feel like it's progressing really quickly. Like you'll see, they just came out with AI video.
Yeah.
So now like I could make a video of, you saying something in your podcast that you never said and be like, look at this. Why is this canceled? Like,
honestly, get me famous, bro. No, but I saw those AI video things, and that's really awesome.
Yeah,
because
it's pretty crazy.
I've been trying to, in a short film idea that I have, I wanted to get footage of like people skydiving. And I was like, there's just no way I'm ever going to get that. But now I can just have AI like make me a video of people skydiving, which would be so awesome.
Right.
Like the ideas for like, I mean, the way you cut from like people who are really rich and can do these things from now like anybody can do these things. Like you're slimming that line creatively.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's really exciting to me.
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of, it's kind of a bomb to like the stock or not stock. What's it called? Yeah. Stock videos and stuff like stock photos.
Yeah.
The stock industry. I said stock and I was like finances. My brain like
I get what you're saying.
Yeah. No, the stock footage industry. Cause it's like, I don't know where they fit into that, right?
That is interesting. Like the people who record pictures of volcanoes. Like, I was watching this TikTok thing that had AI videos and real life videos, and you had to guess which one was which. at the beginning it was really easy, and then I was like wrong like half the time.
Yeah.
And I was like, does it even matter if it's real or not anymore? Like if I want to
Right?
look at a video of a volcano, I'm going to look at a video of a volcano whether it's real or not.
I mean,
you know?
in 10 years, I feel like it'll be the Schrodinger's cat of like, is it like, I don't know. It doesn't really matter. It could be real.
It could be real and fake at the same time.
Exactly. Like,
you know?
I mean, I guess as long as it's not like misinformation or something, you know,
Yeah.
it's a volcano. You
And
know,
so
like,
where do you think that's heading in terms of like your interests or like space, or is this just like
that's a tangent.
that's just like AI is just like
Yeah.
getting out there now?
Oh my gosh. I was in my room the other day, and my den, like in my house that I'm an RA of, is like right across from my room. And I start hearing like this like philosophical conversation ignite about like laws and like the meaning of society. And then it like moves to like religion. And then they're talking about like AI and free will and stuff like that. And I was like, oh my God.
Oh, so it was on the brain because
They were transcending everything. I went out to do my rounds, and like I stopped in there and chatted for a little bit. But
Yeah, I had the philosophy president come on. This is a while ago, and we talked about AI art being art. Like, is that even like, you know what I mean? And I never really conceptualized it as an idea. But once you get into these things, you think it's the most like, I don't know, like empty conversation. But then you get into it and you're like, actually, this is kind of like interesting and just bizarre that we're even having a conversation like this.
Exactly. That is a really interesting one, because it's like there's still somebody who it's somebody's vision, right? So like you have to really sort of finesse the AI a little bit to get what you want. But at the same time, it's like there's a few issues with it. One is like, where did the AI sort of pull that inspiration from? Like, right? Like, is it somebody else's art who they, you know, who's now going to sue or something, right? Because it seemed to clearly take inspiration from something they did. I don't know. Well,
and we had that, and then we had the writer's strike with like Hollywood and stuff. If you heard about that, which was just like
maybe vaguely, but
vaguely.
I get so much.
Don't you say bagel too?
A bagel, bag. Those are the big ones. I don't even know. I don't hear the difference. You say it, and
vague.
I'm like, vague. Like, what is this? Like
vague. I said vague, and you said vague. But you normally say, what'd you say? Vag. Dude, that sounds.
I don't know. It's the Minnesota thing.
That sounds like I almost have to censor it.
It's just gonna be beep.
Yeah, that sounds disturbingly close. But we had the writers. You had the writers strike because people were like, I don't feel. I feel also. So the writers strike was because people felt that their jobs are going to get taken by AI when it comes to writing TV shows and movies. And my thing was that, like, especially at the state of AI, if you're getting outwritten by like AI, then I don't really know if you deserve to be writing. But maybe I haven't thought about it too much.
Yeah,
but
I don't know. I mean, I've played with like ChatGPT, right, and like getting it to output stuff, and it's not like you tell it to tell you a story, right, and then it'll spit like 3 paragraphs out all the time, right, and then it's like it's not like anything interesting. It just uses flowery language. Like, I feel like that's the best way to describe it. It's just like very descriptive. I was like, write a trip about my family visiting Antarctica, and it's like, you know, as you approach the vast, you know, drifts and it's just like, you know, using all this linguistic like vocabulary, crazy vocabulary. But it's not interesting in the slightest.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's what I'm saying. If you're getting outwritten by ChatGPT, like as like a professional writer, then I don't know how much that says about your security, other than like you maybe want to write a little bit better or whatever.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. Some of the videos, I'll get like a video recommended to me on YouTube, and it's like, this was written by AI. And it's just like ridiculous and nonsensical.
Yeah. I mean, it's fun. That's why I say it's like really gimmicky right now.
Exactly.
And it is interesting. And that video thing is really cool. And I just, you know, I don't know. I feel like in terms of faking videos or like deep fakes and like these videos of like, if you got a video of me saying something that I didn't actually say, I'm really curious to see what the actual effects of that would be.
Right. And how do you make the truth spread faster than the lie? Like you can't, right?
Well, yeah, and I wonder if I don't know. I don't know if this is going to change the game. I feel like it has the potential to make things so much better though. You know what I mean? That has to say something about like authenticity of like people are either going to learn to like be more critical. Like everyone now has to learn to be more critical of like what's actually being said.
Yeah. I mean, it could have either effect, right?
Yeah.
It could make everyone more critical, or, you know, if you take a lesson from history, people will take the less, you know,
the easier route,
which is just believing it. But,
yeah. Well, I guess so. Only time will tell, but I don't know if I'm as like doomsday with AI as maybe my parents are, but you know, because my dad had brought something up, I was like, I would love for somebody to make an AI version of me doing anything. It would just be so funny to me.
Yeah.
Have you seen the ones of people singing?
I don't think so. Like, oh, you mean like politicians and stuff singing?
Yeah, or like Plankton from SpongeBob will like sing or something like that.
Like deep fakes or like the Dame Dene. Like
yeah, those are. I'm gonna get your voice after this episode, and I'm gonna put it into a filter.
You're not even like putting it on anything right now. You're just getting a bunch of sampling. You know,
I would say this episode isn't even gonna get posted. This is just footage for me to have you deepfake say a bunch of things you did not say.
Yeah,
all the clips are all gonna be like AI deepfake videos of you saying really terrible things.
Yeah, you're. I mean, at this point, you wouldn't even need to bring anyone in for your podcast anymore. It's just like, oh yeah,
I could have any of my guests.
Yeah, they'll see it and they're like, Elijah, is this allowed?
I would say I'm going to have Dr. Younger on for the next 10 episodes. Will part 2, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Like, do I have to approve it? I don't know.
Yeah, I guess it's not up to you. So I had some questions in regards to, I wanted to get back onto space and technology. You're doing all these research and you have all these mysteries. I wonder if there are things that you have or know that like maybe most people don't know about space, or what you find are these like interesting things, because you say that it's like this very mysterious thing and that people should be interested in it because it's like 90%, or probably a lot more than that. Technically, it's probably 99% of everything.
Well, it's more. It's not even worth like putting a number to it, because it's like, you know.
Yeah, it's almost 100%.
I mean, it's in the sense where it's like space is. When we talk about the size of the universe, we're talking about like the size of the observable universe, which means how much we can see. And the reason we can't see all of it is because there's a limit to like how fast light can go, right? The speed of light, obviously. And the entire universe is expanding. And if you look at a point further away from us, the further you look, the faster it's expanding away. It's like if you imagine blowing up a balloon, and if you put two dots pretty close together, they're gonna expand slowly away from each other. If they're a little bit further, though, there's more space in front of them expanding, and between them expanding. So it's like the further away something is, the faster it's leaving us. So there's a point where it's moving away from us. The space is moving. There's more space. The space is increasing faster than light can reach us. So there's a point where the light will never reach us, and we'll never be able to see certain galaxies. And so you talk about the size of the observable universe, and that's like just what we can see. We don't even know what could be beyond it. For all we know, the universe could be like round, is like what you can call it. And it's like, it basically would mean that if you keep going in a direction, say you're like going towards the moon, right? You kind of pass the moon because you don't want to run into it. You say you just keep going, that eventually you would actually come back. Like if you just kept going straight, you would come back to where you started. You'd like come back to Earth.
I see what you're saying.
So it's like, it's sort of like how a sphere works, right? So like if you go around, it's like if you kept walking on the surface of the Earth, you'd come back. But with the entire universe. So that's a theory.
Is the consensus right now that the universe is like infinite?
I mean, I don't think anybody knows, just because, like I said, we can't see past a certain point. So it's mysterious in that sense, where we really don't know how large the universe actually is. And then there's, in terms of that expansion aspect of the universe, there's like all these interesting, these interesting discrepancies in our measurements. So there's this thing called, and I'll glaze over the technical stuff. There's this thing called the Hubble constant, though, and it basically is a number that sort of describes how fast the universe is expanding. And there are different ways to calculate it. If you calculate it one way, you get one number. You calculate it another way, you get a slightly different number consistently. So it's like, and the point I'm making basically is that there are just these things here and there in science in general that are kind of at the core of our fundamental beliefs and understanding of the universe, but they don't add up. Like, they don't line up. And so it's like, is there going to be some huge discovery here, right, where we figure out some of these things, but have to rewrite some of the laws of, physics as we know it? I don't know.
Dude, that's so crazy. When you go into a field that's heavily research based or heavily idea based, I personally get bombarded with this idea of like, what am I going to add to this? Like, what is there for me to discover? What is there for me to do? It seems like everything has a definition. It seems like everything fits tightly. And I know that in psychology, the pressure comes in that things are changing and that people are constantly reacting to these changing things. In science, I had this belief that everything was kind of set and done, and like you guys were just waiting for like either like we find something to be able to build something that can go explore these things, or like I didn't know that like the constants were even up for like grabs. As far as like there's
another huge discrepancy is like Einstein wrote the theory of general relativity, and that sort of defines this large scale like movement of bodies and stuff like that, like huge galaxy level, solar system level stuff. And then you have the theory of quantum mechanics, which is like super small, right? That's like that's like at the level of atoms, right? That's how like electrons behave, stuff like that, and even lower. And so you have this small world theory and then this, huge world theory. And they straight up just don't line up. Like,
what does that mean?
Like, I mean, I'm not an expert on this.
Okay.
But it's just like in the sense that quantum mechanics doesn't fit into the general theory of relativity. Like gravity, for example, isn't really accommodated by quantum mechanics. I think I might be wrong, but I do know that the theory of relativity and the theory of quantum mechanics just don't line up. Like, they don't work together. To the point where one of them has to be changed.
That's what my next question was. Yeah. So like, what does that necessarily mean? Because wouldn't that mean that like one of them isn't like up to snuff?
But they're also when you say theory in science, I mean, you know this as well. It's like theory is something that's been proven time and time and time again, right? And so a theory is like it's almost a fact. It's almost a fact. And nothing is ever completely certain. But it's like quantum mechanics and relativity are like two of the most well-tested theories, and they've stood up. So it's like, when is something going to come along? I don't know. It's huge. It like keeps me up at night.
I know. I wonder. Well, because it'd seem, maybe this is just like the layman's interpretation of space, but it had seemed that the common consensus was that space was infinite, or that like it's possible that it is infinite. You know what I mean? I don't know if maybe I'd mix those things up, but it seemed like space is a vast, infinite nothingness with, infinite possibilities in it or whatever. But I had wondered what conceptually would look like if space ended. Like, you know what I mean? I feel like it seems as if that seems more unlikely than space being infinite, is that space actually ends and what that even looks like.
Yeah, and I like used to wonder about that as well. I was like, what would be the edge of space? Just more space? You can't have more space because then it's still space.
Yeah.
But if it ended, from my understanding, it would be more like that scenario I sort of throughout there earlier.
That
where
it
it's like,
circles.
yeah, it's like any direction you go, you'd come back. It's like, is there an end to the surface of the Earth?
Mm-hmm. Technically, no, but like
Right. If you can't leave the surface of the Earth, you're always gonna be. It's like finite. There's only a certain amount of stuff there, but at the same time, like you can't leave it. So there's no edge.
this is making me feel insignificant. No, space is so bizarre, and I want to get more on like science, because that is insane to me that there's just like this unproven uncomfortability. Like there's just this uncomfortability, like this very tiny like amount of things that just don't fit quite right.
Yeah.
And I just wonder what it takes to fix that, or like, is a person going to be like the next thing? You know what I mean?
that's
Like
the other
Albert
thing.
Einstein is probably the most famous scientist of all time.
Right.
You know,
yeah.
and so I wonder if we're gonna have another Albert Einstein that like gets taught in the history books.
Yeah, and I wonder about that too. And Stephen Hawking is, in a little bit, in a sort of in a sense, not, as high level and famous, I guess, as Albert Einstein, but
He's
sort
right
of a
there.
more modern. Yeah, because he pioneered black holes, science and stuff like that. But like, what's interesting is that I feel like there's fewer and fewer people like that. I mean, name the most famous scientist right now. Like
Kim Kardashian.
I don't know exactly. I'm proving a point. It's like nobody really comes to mind, and I think it's because more and more we're getting into these fields where it's less, one person like scratching their head over their piece of paper or something, and more like huge research teams and like
It's 10 guys on Reddit like discovering.
yeah, there you go. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like having a revelation on r/, whatever.
Yeah.
But no, it's more on the scale of like these huge billion-dollar projects and like detectors and stuff to, detect particles moving through the earth, or huge teams. So I feel like, there's always somebody who leads those teams, but it's not necessarily one person who is, figuring all this out, right? So I'll be interested to see like sort of if and when these things are discovered, like, and it's not like somebody's going to have an aha moment. Like it'll be these probably smaller theories that maybe, these little smaller discoveries here and there, and eventually maybe we'll be able to slightly adjust our theories.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine crunching numbers for like so long and having this eureka moment that like actually just paves the way for some of the most incredible advancements, like being that huge. Imagine if I just saw your face on the news, like William Cornell, like Nobel Prize winner for.
Yeah, you'd probably be like sending me a text like,
yeah,
hey, remember me?
yeah, like episode 2, dude, come on down.
Please. Yeah, no, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's super interesting.
No, I wonder. I just wonder where like your place in discoveries like this, like what's like kind of like the average person's, not that you're average, but like you're starting, you know what I mean? You're getting into this. I don't even know where you'd begin to start working on these things.
Yeah, this is like not anything I'd be working on necessarily. I had actually one of my physics recitation instructors, not a lecturer, but a recitation instructor. He was like a more senior guy who like had these like high level like research stuff he was working on with like people in Korea, and like he was a particle physicist, and that was kind of random and cool to talk to him. But like he's the type of person who would be like sort of more in that direction. Like I follow the stuff because it's super interesting, but I'm more on the engineering side, which is like you have science, which is like figuring out new stuff, and then engineering is like, all right, we're not like changing any laws, but we're going to use the knowledge we know and sort of make it applicable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what can we build with this? Or like, how can we use the supplies we already have? The stuff science has figured out, how can we actually use that to benefit us?
Okay, so that's more so the area that you're going to be.
Yeah, that's like engineering. It's like, all right, like, I mean, materials is super interesting because it's like there's all this stuff you never would have thought of, you know, that goes into like, it's more than just a steel beam. Like it matters, not even the composition or the, you know, like composition isn't even the only thing that affects it. Because like there's all types of alloys, but then beyond that, you could have the same alloys and then heat treat them differently. So like different temperature history. So like you heat one up and quench it really quickly. It'll behave differently than another one. And so like in the industry, you know, if you're designing a building or something or a product for something else, you're going to have to like actually think about down at the lowest level, you know, down the subcontractor chain is like materials, where you're actually thinking about like what specific treatments and how do we get like this exact property we need from the material. So.
And so is that kind of where you'll find yourself working in the future, and that's where you're going to be working towards, is more of that materials side, or is it going to be some kind of combination of both, or what things will you find that you want to discover?
I mean, we'll just see. It's like I'm planning to start in materials for a few reasons. I mean, one is that it's just kind of smaller businesses. Like it's hard to find a small like launch company like Rocket. You know, like you know, I mean, they're out there, but with materials, it's more, you know, average person level, right? It's not as hard to, you know, there's like, you can probably drive an hour north and find, you know, a materials processing facility. You're not going to find a launch pad. Yeah. Right. So it's like, it's sort of more, you know, more at achievable level. Right. And there's less clutter and competition in the sense that, I mean, you go to the career fairs for engineering and it's like aerospace, there's like maybe 3 or 4 companies or something that are really interesting to the aerospace engineers. And there's a lot of aerospace students. So it's like huge, long lines. And whereas I can go and talk to a company that it has a huge, you know, a great materials company, and I hardly have to wait at all. Right. And, you know, that applies beyond just a career fair. It's like just generally the career field of, you know, working in these places. It's not going to be as busy, but yeah. And then also just in the sense of like, with materials, I can kind of work on projects that go towards anything in a sense. I mean, like any material, a lot of the materials companies are going to be like subcontractors for like parts that are going to space. And so it's like, it's still contributing to that. And it's still, you know, a part of that aerospace aspect. But I mean, we'll just see where I go, right?
Yes, so it seems like you added the materials engineer part to kind of like broaden what you could do. And it wasn't, is it still like kind of an interest? Like you did it because I'm really interested, because you said you were interested in like the chemistry of these things and like some of the compositional things, but it also seems like this is kind of like an ability to you to expand the things that you can do more so than like a huge interest in it.
I mean, it's both, because I had that interest in chemistry before, you know, adding materials. And now that I've added materials, I'm realizing how cool materials is, right? So it's like I've kind of also developed that interest over time. But yeah, materials is very, it's interesting in the career sense and in the, you know, actual sort of geekiness sense for me. Yeah, most of the aerospace stuff that I'm interested in is like the space stuff, the stuff that's going. And so a lot of aerospace engineers, I don't know, like it's hard to imagine as much like where I would end up in that direction. I don't know. They work well together, and I could see myself working in the materials industry sort of for a long time. So,
okay. Well, I wonder, slight pivot, but I wonder where your work ethic comes in when you're doing 2 engineering degrees. Like one is very difficult for a reason. You know what I mean? It's like it is like a difficult major, but 2 seems just like And I know a lot of people who are double engineer majors, but like where does that come from? And it just takes a different kind of person than
I don't know. And I don't know if I am that different kind of person, but in general, I don't know. I tend to have, I guess, a pretty good work ethic in the sense that I enjoy the stuff I'm doing, right? And so like I can, have fun with homework and stuff like that. And it's kind of just, I just always expect that I'll have, schoolwork and stuff to do. I go home over like summer break and I'm like, God, this sucks. Like I don't have anything handed to me like to fill my time. It's like I have to actually do something.
Yeah.
And then, and not like couch potato, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, in that sense where it's like, but it is, it's not easy to manage my time. And even when I'm not, a double major in 2 engineering fields, I still like have trouble managing my time, which is, I think everybody struggles with it to a sense. Mm-hmm. I feel like college is like 90% time management.
Yeah.
Like you could get every major you wanted if you had all the time in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's that fact that you have to know how to balance it, right? You could pass every class if you studied for it for a year, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, I would.
You'd like to think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because I just feel it's so different when I talk to any engineer. Just the difference between psychology and like engineering is so wild to me. I would probably die on the hill that psychology is the easiest major on campus. Like I could say that pretty confidently. It's definitely different. Like if you don't like writing, it's probably gonna suck. And some people really can't do it, but like, it's definitely different. You know what I mean? It's a whole different beast. Yeah. And I wonder if it's different. One of the things that I was thinking about was what the end goal looks like. It feels like 90% of psychology majors are wanting to go to grad school. And so their GPA matters a lot more than like engineers who are just going to get their degree and hopefully go into the workforce.
Right. Yeah.
And they're not necessarily super concerned about their GPA. So like a C, is like fine. You know what I mean? Like the term C's get degrees make psych majors like faint. You know what I mean? And so I wonder if that's where the difference is.
The one I hear is D's to get degrees, but
D's also probably get degrees too. But like both
maybe
of them,
not jobs, but degrees.
And so I wonder if that kind of plays into the difference.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I'm very stressed about like what my GPA looks like, and then I do the bare minimum to make sure that I get that requirement.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I wonder if that's like a big difference too, and that you are doing the bare minimum so that you can like pass, you know what I mean? So you can like make it to the next thing.
Yeah. And honestly, because I care a lot about my GPA. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, I know what you mean, where a lot of engineering majors are like, yes, I got a B or I got a C, right? And it's like, for me, the GPA is pretty important to me. And I forgot what I was going to say. I had something.
You're talking about GPA being important to you. We were talking about like what the plan of the future looks like, and that kind of influences your work ethic.
Yeah.
C's and D's get degrees. You care about your GPA.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It left me.
Dang. Yeah. No, but I get what you're saying. But with the engineer, it's a whole different vibe of like what school looks like. And I feel like it's a constant motivator to keep pushing and to keep trying.
I remember what I was going to say.
Say it.
It was the fact that I feel like it's almost not a good thing to like be so, because I'll admit I'm a little bit of a perfectionist. Mm-hmm. And so, if I have homework due at midnight or something, first of all, I'll leave it to the last minute.
Yeah.
But I'll put in so much effort no matter how tired I am, and I'll be like, I'm going to get this right and I'm going to do it. And so that's what helps contribute to like having a good GPA, is that I just kill myself over my homework. But I don't feel like that's a good thing, because it's like, I don't I don't set boundaries for myself as to how like, hard I, work on something. And it's like sometimes I'm not even working on something productively. It's just like get it done. Like I'm not even like learning that much. So I'm a little bit of a perfectionist in that sense. So
Do you think you find that you struggle socially or like in other terms because of your work ethic or because you spend so much time doing these things?
well, that's the other like my entire schedule is like so tight because it's like I don't turn down social opportunities either. And so sometimes that, I mean, rarely. And so sometimes that kind of, gets in the way of, getting my stuff done. I don't know. I operate on such narrow margins. It's not good.
You don't get like any free time at all. And
well, I mean, like I do spend time with friends and stuff like that, but then it's like, oh, I could have been working on this and then I'll barely get that thing done or something. But I don't know. Yeah. I have fun though most of the time.
you should like said like I have fun and then look at the camera like this. Like I swear, guys, I swear I do.
I swear I'm enjoying life.
Yeah. But I don't know. It's such a different vibe. And I want, if you have advice to the people who are coming here and are taking these engineers or are trying to balance like these a lot more content heavy course loads, what advice do you have for people who are doing that?
Yeah, I mean, what I would say is like if you're coming here for engineering, you gotta, you're interested in it to some degree, right? You're interested in what you're doing. And so in the sense of sort of tackling these difficult classes and stuff like that, like find the fun in it. Find that, like, think about why am I doing this, right? Like at its core, what is this? How is this going to help me get to my, end goal, which is maybe the degree, maybe a career or something. And so, yeah, I guess two things, like think about the larger picture, the bigger picture, if you need motivation, right? Like, how is this going to progress? And then like, where's the fun in this? Like, how is this math problem? How can I make it fun? How can I think about it in a sense that's fun? And I think that's usually possible. And then if it's not, like, if you're not enjoying it, freshman, sophomore year is a good time to decide you don't want to do engineering.
Yeah. And the switch majors.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, people do it and they're happier. So it's like, if you're really, it's not it for you. Obviously there's nothing wrong with finding something else that's more, well suited. I have a friend who's like in aerospace right now and he's going to switch to trade school and, he'll probably make more than I do.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if people are attracted to how much money can be made in engineering, and that kind of like dilutes what they feel like their actual interest is.
When was the last time you met an engineer who was a millionaire? A rich engineer? I feel like...
No, I literally just heard Dave Ramsey on my Tech Talk say that the number one, they interviewed, like, I don't know, they polled 10,000 millionaires, and the number one work path was engineer.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I guess
it's probably unrelated. It probably is related to being an engineer, but they're probably also doing other things like,
I don't know. I feel
real
like,
estate.
I feel like all the engineers I know are like, I don't know, like average Joes. Like, but I guess I kind of underestimate. I probably blend the line between like millionaire and multi-millionaire.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say 1 million is definitely a lot.
Exactly. Yeah,
1 millionaire.
Yeah, exactly.
So no, but that is super interesting.
Yeah.
But I do wonder if people, they kind of see that because it that is how it's described as like this really well-paying job, and so I feel like some people will take it on not necessarily understanding like what an engineer actually is.
Exactly. And I think there's a lot of that with aerospace as well, because it's like aerospace is the sexy one. It's like,
which is insane, by the way.
If you're like sort of just vaguely, I'll use that word again, interested in engineering, like I feel like you're not going to go into like materials, right? You're not going to think of that, right? And so aerospace is like the one that like, oh, I think planes are cool. Everyone thought like planes and rockets were kind of cool growing up.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't know what they are, but they're kind of cool. And so it's like, people are like, engineering, planes.
Aerospace engineering.
Aerospace engineering.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of that, and I feel like I've actually seen like my class level drop just over like 1 year. And that's good. I mean, people are sort of finding their path a little bit more, and I think that's the great thing about Iowa State, because it's like, if I went to say Embry-Riddle or something, I would not have been able to add on, maybe a materials major in the same sense, because they're so aerospace focused. And maybe if they do have that, I don't know much about Embry-Riddle, but maybe it wouldn't be as good of a program, right?
Right.
And so there's a lot of possibilities in terms of if you don't find that interesting, don't find something interesting, you can kind of just, jump over to the next building and like pick up a different major, right? And take that route and stay at the same school. So.
Yeah. Well, and I think to me, it feels like such a gamble to do a major in terms of its like monetary value that you can get, especially with like aerospace. Like I wouldn't say that it's shameful to choose aerospace and then like switch later.
No,
like I would never say that, but I do think though that it's like, it definitely kind of stinks a little bit that people are incentivized to choose this major, even if they're not necessarily interested in it, or even if they're not,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, no, I think, I'm all for just people should not, drive headfirst into something they're not interested in, right? I'm a huge believer in enjoying, what you do, right? Obviously a job's a job. It's always going to be a job, but, sort of trying to structure your life so that the week is fun as well. It's not just the weekends, right?
Yeah.
It's like, that's most of your life. So, try to do whatever. I mean, just switching in college is a better time to switch than being like 35 years old and like, wow, I don't really enjoy this. Like,
yeah.
So it's like, any time is the time to find your path, right? So.
Yeah. There's this, I don't know, there's this term in psychology where I can't remember what it is though, but if things were slightly worse, it would be so much better, is like the term. Because it's like, if you're in a bad relationship, for example, if it's just good enough to stay, you're going to stay. But if things were slightly worse, you'd be motivated to change. And in the long run, that'd be so much better. Yeah. And I think some people get trapped in that. And I feel like some people get trapped in engineering where they're like, dude, I hate all these classes. I don't find this very interesting. I'm in constant fear of failing. My GPA is at like a 2 right now. And I just this sucks, but I know that at the end of this tunnel, there's going to be something great. But like, if they just got kicked a little more, they'd switch to their true passion, which is underwater basket weaving, and they could switch to that and do that. You know what I mean?
Yes. Or like deep sea diving.
Yeah. Or something obscure. But I feel people get trapped in that a lot. And I feel like engineering is kind of one of those things. And of course, engineering is super awesome, though, unrelated. And I would never dare accuse even a majority of these people of not being interested in engineering, because I do think it's cool. Yeah. But I do think there are those people who are kind of trapped in a place that maybe they don't want to be.
And I think it's easy to just kind of, I like to call it like coast along with your headlights off and just be like, this is fine. Like, not if you don't think too much about it and like sort of self-analyze, then it's easy to just kind of like, and this goes for anything, right, in life. So it's like one of the things that I've been trying to do more recently is just like turn those headlights on and plan a little bit further into the future. So
what does that look like for you? Like, what's an example of you? What's an example of someone not having their headlights on and then like you turning them on?
One thing I would say, I mean, there's all sorts of scales to this, like time scales, but like, as my schedule gets busier, it's like actually looking forward and planning out weeks and stuff like that, or being like, how am I going to coordinate all of this so that I don't have to let, somebody know I can't take a desk shift because I realized 2 days before that I have an exam conflicting with that. I don't know. It's just kind of simple in that sense. But also on the larger scale, kind of reflecting and thinking about like where it's easy to just think about the present moment all the time. But like, I mean, that also applies like looking backwards, like reflecting, which allows you to sort of adjust your trajectory for the future. So just kind of abstract, but that's what I feel like.
That's really weird. I've actually only ever heard that in terms of people aren't being present enough. But I guess you're probably more talking about like drowning in the present as opposed to like planning for the future present.
I'm not saying like when, like sitting down doing something that, or if people are like doing something social or something that they should be thinking about like what they did yesterday.
Yeah.
No, I mean more on the grander sense of like, how did this, just kind of sit down for a moment and be like, how did this week go? What could I have like improved on? Right. And just taking some time to just think. Like it's easy to just always be thinking about having your head down and thinking about the thing you're doing right then and not actually thinking about what that means. Like what, how you did, right? Where you're going. And that's like huge for career planning and stuff like that. So, to a degree, I like to fly by the seat of my pants, but that's also sort of what I mean by like, I don't really have my headlights on. It's like, what's ahead of me? I don't know. But so, yeah, just in the grander sense of like sort of thinking about where you are, because a lot of years can pass by before you look up and think about it.
Yeah, I'm a hyper analytical person, and so it's pretty difficult for me to like fly by the seat of my pants. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know you plan out your weeks. So like I'll try to do something with you, or I feel like it's happened in the past, and you're like, there's no room in my schedule.
Yeah, let me consult my calendar to see. I have hangouts in my calendar, like when I'm going to hang out with the person. Like I schedule dates with people. You know what I mean? Where it's like, here's this one-on-one lunch with this person at this time.
And
so
I see. I've been trying to find a happy medium, like with using my calendar, and not spending all my time planning my schedule and stuff. And so it's like, where do I balance that? But
that's what we were saying. Like college is just time management. Like
exactly.
I feel like I've learned more about like how to email and use a calendar than I have in any of my classes.
Yeah, exactly. No,
I might as well be paying the university for like a life management 101 class that they forced me to use.
Exactly. Life management. Teach you how to learn. That's
yeah.
Say. Yeah.
Well, and you had said in your form that you filled out that you have this kind of, and you were talking earlier about it too, but you're a learner, or you like to learn, and you like mysteries, you like solving things, you like learning about these things. How do you think that influences the way that you live life, maybe the way that you've approached school? That seems like it'd be a huge motivator for being successful in engineering that maybe other people do not have.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I like sort of like I was saying before, it's like I find the fun in like my classes and what I'm doing. And I've kind of always been interested in that, random little thing that gets brought up in materials engineering class or something like that. Or, I'm passionate about the learning on the academic side. And then also like on the sort of keeping myself sane side, right? Doing stuff that's not school. Just picking up silly little things and learning them, like riding the unicycle, for example. Like I just learned how to do that over COVID because, right? Just learn something new. Recently, I've been like trying to learn how to play the piano. And I'm not going to make any claims that I'm, very good at what I'm doing when I'm doing that, but I've been, trying to learn. So, and I have a keyboard in my room, so I can put on my headphones and
even though you have the best piano on campus by like large margins in your building.
Yeah, that piano keeps me up at night, literally. So
yeah, so I guess you know how it feels. So, but dude, that piano is the best piano on campus, and I'd die on that hill. But the piano, and I think if there's one thing that can really show you how effective learning something can be, learning a musical instrument is that thing.
Yeah.
And like piano's really good at it, guitar's really good at it. Like if you want to like discover what the process of learning and how powerful it can be, learning an instrument is like the thing to do. I imagine Unicycle probably felt that way as well.
Yeah. My grandpa, my dad's dad, so different grandpa than I was talking about earlier. He just turned 80. And he, like, last year, he picked up cello, like learning cello.
Wow.
And yeah, exactly. And it's like he doesn't really have much musical experience, but he decided to, pick this up, and like the instructor was like willing to, take on the task, right? And so he's been like every day practicing cello, and it's like that's so inspiring to me. Like that's like a model that I want to,
You've had a lot of awesome grandparents in your life.
I'm really lucky, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So shout out.
Yeah, the piano thing's awesome. I'm really excited to see and like to catch up with you about how the piano's going, because do you have a lot of musical experience before this?
I mean, I played clarinet from like 4th grade.
I could have guessed that. I feel like I've had this conversation with you.
The clarinet vibes.
Yeah.
Through my junior year of high school.
Okay.
So it's like
a little bit.
I kind of, I had fun with it. I played in like a jazz band, little soloing, right?
Jazz clarinet soloing is wild. But yeah, okay.
But so it's like I was never really that, star player, but a little bit of musical experience.
Okay. Well, then I'm really excited to see where you're going to go with the piano, because nothing feels better than guitar is my favorite example, because for the first 10 hours of practicing guitar, you can't even make a noise out of it. Yeah. Like everything sounds horrifically bad and you just can't even make a noise.
Yeah.
And then one day you're just able to make noise that you like.
And that's like that sort of hump that you have to get over to start learning it. Because it's like, when I first started trying to pick up piano over spring break, I first played like with my girlfriend. We were just like trying to think of something to do. She has a piano at her house. We were like, all right. So she like pulled up a song from TikTok or something. And it was like a YouTube video where like the notes come down. Yeah. And it was like, I played the right side. She gave me like the 2 notes part of it. It was super whatever. She had like the fun stuff on the left. But so we like actually sort of learned that and practiced it for like an hour until we were sort of able to play it. And then I was like, this is fun.
Yeah.
Like, so we had a keyboard at my house. And so when I got home, I was like, can we get that out? So we did. And then the next day I spent like the whole day, I don't know, like 9 hours, like just playing piano. I was trying to learn Peanuts from like Charlie Brown.
Yeah. Oh yeah. These are the stages.
Yeah.
Once Pirates of the Caribbean theme comes out, I'll know that you've.
There you go. Yeah. Right now it's Interstellar, so I've been like trying to master that one.
Are you doing the Kanye?
Oh my god.
The Runaway or whatever.
No, I eventually I'll get there. I'll get there. That's like a little further in the progression.
Right. Yeah, you're not at that stage, the stage of piano learning.
Yeah, I'll let you know. I'll hit you up.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of those things where like musical instruments are one of those things where with just a little bit of brute force, just slamming your head against the keyboard for a while, like you will just be better at piano than 80% of people. You know what I mean? Just from like forcing yourself to do it, like just with straight up man hours, you're gonna become good at the piano.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And obviously you're gonna hit this huge plateau when like you haven't learned any musical theory and like you're just playing off like enthusiasm, but like beyond that though, like that plateau is pretty far away, so you can play some pretty impressive stuff until then. So
yeah.
No, but that's really fun. So you have to tell me where you're going.
I will.
I want to end the episode off with some of these like overarching ideas, or just to give you an opportunity to talk about maybe some advice or some last thoughts you have about anything that we've talked about, or anything you'd like some of the audience to know, particularly about engineering or space or learning. But if you have anything to say, I'd love to give the opportunity to talk about it. Yeah,
I mean, stay curious, right? Like, find that thing and go towards it. Every field that you're a part of is going to have the sort of boring, academic, very sort of high threshold stuff, right, to learn. But there's also going to be, some stuff in industry or other places that, kind of is easier. You could watch a simple YouTube video about it and think it's cool, right? So it's like find those things as well that are like, take, fewer classes and math and stuff to understand, and sort of hold on to that as well and be like, oh, that's really cool, right? Like, I mean, with psychology, it's like the Stanford prison experiment. Like, you don't need to know a lot about psychology, and you could learn about that and be like, damn, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of examples, but just, something that's like, wow, that's a weird example. But
No, it's applicable because a lot of people who aren't into psych know about the Stanford
exactly.
experiment. So it's
probably
interesting.
have gone down a deep dive and find it interesting.
yeah.
So it's like find those things that are a little bit easier to find interesting, and then use that to sort of fuel the more difficult, more academic stuff. Yeah, and I mean, like I've been saying, keep learning. Don't view learning as, this transactionary experience, right? Transactional experience. It's like it's sort of more like a continuous thing that, you'll be doing your whole life. It's like I said as well earlier, it's like college is teaching you how to learn. And so it's teaching you specific things as well, but it's also teaching you how to go out there and be that lifelong learner and keep learning and learn to play the cello when you're 80 years old. So it's like, have fun with life.
Well, Will, it was awesome having you on.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks, man.